Do you find yourself suddenly awake at 2:30 in the morning, staring at the ceiling while everyone else sleeps peacefully? You lie there wondering why your body won't let you rest through the night like it used to. Maybe you glance at your phone or the bedside clock, feeling frustrated that sleep seems to slip away just when you need it most. If this sounds familiar, you're definitely not the only one facing this challenge. Countless people, especially those in their golden years, deal with these unexpected middle-of-the-night wake-ups. While it might seem like just an annoying interruption, there are real, understandable reasons why your sleep patterns have changed. Reason: 1. Declining sleep hormone levels as we get older. Many of us start experiencing something that feels both mysterious and frustrating. Waking up at almost the exact same time every night, often around 2:30 or 3 a.m. While this might seem random or concerning, it's actually something that happens to most people as they age. The main culprit? Our bodies naturally produce less melatonin over time. Melatonin is the hormone that acts like your body's sleep manager. It helps you fall asleep and, more importantly, stay asleep throughout the night. Think of it as your internal timekeeper, keeping you synchronized with the natural rhythm of day and night, helping you achieve the deep, healing sleep your body needs. When we're younger, we rarely think about sleep. We simply lie down, close our eyes, and drift off for hours without any struggle or interruption. But as years pass, that effortless, unbroken sleep becomes increasingly difficult to maintain. Melatonin levels start declining gradually, and over time, these changes begin to noticeably affect our rest. For many older adults, falling asleep isn't the main problem. It's staying asleep that becomes challenging. You might still feel tired from your day and easily fall asleep initially, but around 2 or 3 a.m., your body has less melatonin available to keep you in that peaceful, deep sleep state. Without that hormonal support, you might suddenly find yourself completely awake, even without any external disturbances. Picture this. You're lying in bed, your body feeling physically tired, but your mind starts becoming alert. It's as if the natural embrace of nighttime can no longer hold you in its peaceful grip. You're not restless or anxious, you're just awake. The silence around you feels overwhelming, and you wonder why you can't simply stay asleep. This experience can feel frustrating and confusing. It might even feel like your own body is working against you. But here's what's important to understand. This isn't your fault, and you're not doing anything wrong. It's simply part of how our bodies naturally change as we age, a shift in your internal chemistry that's completely normal. You're not broken, you're not failing at sleep, and you're certainly not alone in this experience. This is a natural part of life's journey, though that doesn't make it any less challenging to deal with. The environment around you can make these changes even more difficult to manage. As we age, we often become more sensitive to even tiny changes in our surroundings. The smallest amount of light, whether from a streetlight outside, a digital clock display, or even a thin sliver of light under a door, can interfere with whatever melatonin your body is still producing. That's right. It doesn't take much to disrupt your body's internal clock when it's already working with less melatonin. When you're struggling to stay asleep, these minor disturbances can feel like major obstacles to getting the rest you need. Let me tell you about Margaret, a woman in her late 60s who had always been known as a sound sleeper. Nothing used to wake her. Not thunderstorms, not traffic noise, not even her neighbor's dog barking. But recently she started noticing something troubling. Every single night around 2:45 a.m., she would find herself wide awake. It wasn't because of stress or worry. There weren't any external noises or disturbances. She simply felt like it was time to be awake, even though she knew she needed more sleep. For weeks, Margaret struggled with confusion and even worry that something might be seriously wrong with her health. Eventually, Margaret learned that this was a normal, though admittedly frustrating, part of getting older. Her body was simply producing less melatonin, which explained why she was waking up in the middle of the night. This understanding brought her tremendous relief. It wasn't her fault, and her body was simply going through a natural transition. Armed with this knowledge, Margaret decided to make some helpful changes. She started keeping her bedroom as dark as possible, using blackout curtains to block light from the street. She also stopped looking at her phone or tablet for an hour before bedtime and began taking a gentle walk each evening to help regulate her internal clock. These small intentional adjustments made a real difference. While Margaret still occasionally wakes up early, she's learned to accept this as part of her body's new rhythm. She's found peace in working with these changes rather than fighting against them. The truth is, aging can sometimes feel like a series of small losses. We struggle with things we once took for granted, but our bodies aren't betraying us. They're evolving, adapting, and navigating this new phase of life. With patience, understanding, and self-compassion, we can learn to work with these changes, embracing the wisdom that comes with age while adjusting to its challenges. So if you find yourself awake in the middle of the night, remember that you're not alone. Like Margaret, you too can find ways to make peace with these changes and continue to rest well, even if it looks a little different than it used to. Reason 2. Early sleep timing and internal clock changes. As we age, our bodies undergo many changes, and some of the most noticeable involve our natural rhythms and patterns. One significant shift that many older adults experience is what sleep specialists call advanced sleep phase, a change in our body's internal clock that can cause unexpected wake-ups around 3 a.m. long before dawn breaks. While this might feel disruptive or concerning, it's actually a reflection of deeper biological changes happening in your aging circadian rhythms. Our circadian rhythm is like an invisible conductor that orchestrates when we feel sleepy and when we feel alert. As we grow older, this internal timekeeper gradually begins to shift forward, meaning we often feel tired earlier in the evening and consequently wake up much earlier in the morning. For some people, this shift can be deeply frustrating, especially if you're accustomed to staying up later or sleeping until morning. Sunlight filters through your windows. If you've ever found yourself nodding off during your favorite evening TV show, or waking up at the crack of dawn even when you desperately want a few more hours of sleep, this internal clock shift might be the explanation. This isn't simply a matter of developing bad habits or making poor choices. This change is rooted in the natural aging process itself. As we grow older, our bodies no longer follow the later sleep patterns we maintained when we were younger. At one time, our circadian rhythm synchronized perfectly with evening's darker hours, allowing us to comfortably stay up well into the night and wake at a reasonable morning hour. But as time passes, this internal clock gradually moves everything earlier. You might find yourself becoming drowsy by 8:30 or 9 p.m. without even trying, only to discover that by 3 a.m., your body has already completed what it considers a full sleep cycle. That's when you might find yourself staring into the darkness, convinced that your rest is finished even though the outside world remains cloaked in night. This change doesn't indicate that something is wrong with you, nor does it mean you're getting poor quality sleep. It's simply your body's new rhythm. Think of it like a clock that has been gradually adjusted forward a little more each year. While this is completely natural, it can certainly feel frustrating if your daily routine or family schedules don't align with this new internal timing. Quieter lifestyle that often comes with aging can make this transition even more pronounced. Without the usual noise and activity around you, your body's natural signals to wind down may come even earlier, leaving you feeling ready to rest well before conventional bedtime. There's also a psychological element to consider. Many older adults experience greater solitude, living in quieter homes or spending more time alone. The peacefulness of this environment can trigger your body's sleep signals, encouraging it to wind down much earlier than expected. Without the distractions and demands of a busy, structured day filled with work appointments and social obligations, the usual markers that once kept us synchronized with evening's natural flow are no longer present. Let me share the story of Henry, who is 72 years old and recently retired. He settled into a much quieter, more relaxed pace of life. Henry typically enjoys dinner around 5 p.m., watches some television for about an hour, and by 8:30 p.m., he's already feeling ready to sleep. Then, without fail, he finds himself wide awake at 2:45 a.m. His initial reaction was concern and confusion. He worried that he might have developed insomnia or that something was medically wrong. But once Henry learned about advanced sleep phase, He came to understand that his sleep wasn't actually disrupted. It had simply been restructured. His body was naturally falling into an earlier pattern that aligned with his age and the internal changes occurring within him. To better work with his new sleep cycle, Henry made several small but meaningful changes to his evening routine. Instead of watching television late into the evening, he started reading books under soft, warm lighting. He began taking gentle walks after dinner, allowing his body to unwind gradually and naturally. He even started having brief phone conversations with his son before bedtime, nurturing his social connections while signaling to his body that it was time to rest. These small adjustments helped extend his comfortable sleep window, allowing him to gradually adjust his body's internal clock just enough to better align with his preferred lifestyle. Slowly, Henry experienced fewer 3 a.m. wake-ups and instead began feeling more harmonious with his daily rhythm. The truth is, this shift in sleep cycles affects many older adults, but it's rarely discussed openly in our society. It's easy to feel like you're doing something wrong when you wake up early in the morning, but understanding that this is a natural part of aging can bring tremendous relief. When we embrace the fact that our bodies are simply following their natural rhythms, we can approach these changes with more compassion and patience toward ourselves. If you wake up at 3 a.m. feeling as though you've already had a complete night's rest, it's likely because your body has reprogrammed itself to operate on a new internal schedule, one that's simply running on a different time zone than it did in your younger years. Recognizing this shift isn't just about accepting it passively. It's about working collaboratively with your body, adapting your routines and finding ways to support your overall well-being. It means making small adjustments to align with your body's changing needs. Once you do this, you'll discover that your connection to your internal clock can actually be a beautiful thing, one that allows you to make the most of every waking moment, regardless of what time that might be. Reason 3. Physical discomfort and health changes. As our bodies mature, they inevitably begin responding differently to life's daily challenges. One of the more frustrating yet common experiences many older adults face is that predictable wake-up call around 3 a.m. It's almost like having an unwanted alarm clock, that sudden shift from deep, peaceful sleep to a jarring awareness that something doesn't feel quite right. Often, the reason behind these nightly interruptions lies in physical discomfort or underlying health issues that become much more noticeable during the stillness of night. Aging brings with it a cascade of subtle yet persistent changes to our health. These changes may not always be glaringly obvious during our busy daytime hours, but they can feel overwhelmingly real when the world grows quiet and we're left alone with our bodies and thoughts. Chronic conditions that we might overlook or dismiss during the day tend to make their presence known in the dead of night. Those small aches, like a dull throb in your joints, a sudden sharp pain in your back, or the uncomfortable pressure of a full bladder, can quietly disrupt your rest without any warning. When we're younger, it's easy to take uninterrupted sleep for granted. Our bodies are more resilient and forgiving of minor discomforts, but as time passes, even the smallest physical irritation can disturb our rest, especially during nighttime hours when our defenses are naturally lower and our awareness is heightened. It's almost as if our bodies are saying, "Pay attention now. I need you to listen to what I'm telling you." Yet this urgent message often goes unnoticed during the busy chaos of everyday life. It's only in the quiet vulnerability of sleep that these signals become impossible to ignore. Take arthritis, for example, a condition that many older adults know intimately. The pain and stiffness that accompany arthritis often worsen with prolonged inactivity. And for many people, it's the stillness of sleep that makes these aches impossible to ignore. You might drift off to sleep without much trouble initially, but after several hours of lying perfectly still, the discomfort begins to build up, tugging at your joints like a quiet but insistent force. Suddenly, the peaceful calm of night is shattered as you're jolted awake, unable to find a comfortable position again. The search for relief becomes more important than the need for sleep, leaving you tossing and turning in frustration. Or perhaps it's nighttime acid reflux that keeps you awake, that awful burning sensation in your chest that becomes worse when lying down too soon after eating. This forces you to sit up or even stand in search of relief, making it nearly impossible to fall back asleep comfortably. Even seemingly minor discomforts can have major effects on sleep. Muscle cramps, a persistently dry mouth, or sudden temperature changes in your room can stir you awake, leaving you wondering why the simple act of sleeping has become so elusive. And let's not forget about one of the most basic needs of all, the need to use the bathroom. As our bodies age, the bladder becomes less elastic and efficient. What might have been a minor, ignorable urge during the day can become a loud, insistent call in the dead of night, often around that familiar 3 a.m. mark. During busy daytime, hours distractions naturally mask the need to relieve yourself. But when the house is silent and the world is still, that nagging feeling becomes impossible to ignore. When you finally give in and make the trip to the bathroom, it's as if your body shifts into a higher state of alertness. Falling back asleep becomes a real challenge, and you find yourself lying in the dark, wide-eyed, wishing for sleep to return but knowing it may take quite a while. To make matters more complicated, the medications that many older adults rely on to manage chronic conditions, whether for blood pressure, heart health, or pain management, can add another layer of sleep disruption to an already fragile sleep cycle. Some of these medications can have side effects that disturb sleep patterns in ways we might not even recognize at first. Increased urination, heightened sensitivity to light or sound, or fluctuations in body temperature are just a few examples of how helpful medications might inadvertently become the unseen culprits behind restless nights. It's something many of us don't think about until we start noticing patterns and begin asking the right questions about our sleep disturbances. Let me tell you about Dorothy, a 79-year-old woman who had always considered herself a relatively light sleeper. She assumed that waking up during the night was simply another inevitable sign of getting older, something she just had to accept and live with. However, after months of waking up at 3:15 a.m. every single night like clockwork, Dorothy decided to discuss the matter with her doctor during a routine visit. It turned out that one of her blood pressure medications was affecting her body's hydration levels, causing her to make significantly more trips to the bathroom during nighttime hours. After making a few careful adjustments to the timing of her medication and implementing some changes to her daily fluid intake habits, Dorothy found herself waking up much less frequently. When she did wake up, she was able to fall back asleep far more easily than before. The simple act of listening carefully to her body's signals, making those small but important changes, and seeking appropriate medical guidance allowed Dorothy to regain considerable control over her sleep patterns. With better rest came a renewed sense of well-being and energy during her waking hours. The important lesson here is that waking up in the middle of the night due to physical discomfort or health-related issues doesn't represent personal failure or weakness. Quite the opposite. It's a sign that your body is still actively doing its job. It's responding to changes, alerting you to conditions that need attention, and reminding you to pay closer attention to the subtle but important cues your body sends you every day. These moments of wakefulness, although certainly inconvenient and frustrating, can actually be valuable opportunities to make small yet significant improvements in your health routines. Perhaps it means adjusting when you take certain medications, modifying your eating habits, or simply being more mindful and responsive to the physical signals your body is constantly sending. By tuning in and making those thoughtful changes, you can foster a deeper sense of trust and cooperation with your own body, helping it work for you instead of against you. Waking up at 3 a.m. might feel frustrating and disruptive, but it can also serve as a gentle yet powerful reminder to take better care of yourself and to listen more carefully to the wisdom your body has accumulated over the years. Reason 4. Daily routine changes that affect sleep. There's something beautifully natural about how our bodies function, yet it's surprisingly easy to overlook how our daily choices impact our sleep. For older adults, one significant reason behind those 3 a.m. wake-ups often connects to seemingly small changes in long-standing lifestyle habits. These subtle shifts in daily routines, changes that often creep in unnoticed, can deeply affect your internal rhythm in ways you might never expect. We may not realize it at first, but the gradual adjustments we make over time can slowly reprogram the very systems that govern our rest. As the years pass, habits that once felt comfortable and natural begin weaving a new, unintentional pattern. one that can leave us staring at the ceiling during those quiet pre-dawn hours. For many older adults, daily habits naturally evolve after retirement or as children leave home. Evening routines become quieter and less active. Dinner is often eaten earlier than in previous years. Physical activity tends to slow down, and evening hours are spent winding down earlier, often with less mental stimulation than before. At first, these small changes don't seem significant. They might even feel like healthy, peaceful choices that align with a more relaxed lifestyle. But over time, they gradually reshape our internal clock in ways we might not anticipate. These seemingly innocent routine adjustments send subtle signals to our bodies that the day should end sooner. And like a well-trained response, your body begins to comply. The result? You find yourself waking up at an hour that feels far too early, often long before the world even begins to stir with the first hints of dawn. When your daily rhythms become significantly quieter, particularly after major life transitions like retirement, you lose many of the external cues that once helped guide you smoothly through each day. The morning rush of getting ready for work, the afternoon errands that needed attention, or the mentally engaging tasks that once kept your brain active. All of these little nudges helped your body maintain a stable, consistent rhythm. Without them, however, the body naturally shifts its sleep-wake cycle earlier. It's like your body's internal orchestra loses its conductor, causing the carefully coordinated melody of your daily rhythm to fall out of tune. Your quieter evenings, often spent in dimly lit, peaceful environments, send gradual signals to your brain that it's time to prepare for rest. As lights dim and stimulation decreases throughout your home, melatonin, that crucial hormone that encourages sleep, begins rising earlier in the evening than it used to. Before you fully realize what's happening, you're falling asleep by 8:30 or 9 p.m., unaware that your body is already recalibrating its internal rhythm and shifting you into a much earlier sleep cycle than you're used to. But here's the challenging part. Once you start falling asleep significantly earlier, your body naturally finishes its rest earlier too. It's almost as if your body compresses all its necessary sleep into a shorter time frame, leaving you wide awake at 3 a.m. with your eyes open and your mind surprisingly alert, while the rest of the world remains deep in sleep's embrace. This phenomenon, though undeniably frustrating, represents your body's way of adjusting to a new, quieter lifestyle, one that has become more disconnected from the hustle and bustle you once knew so well. Another subtle but incredibly important factor is the timing of your meals and their impact on sleep quality. For many people, eating dinner earlier, an adjustment that many of us naturally make as we age, can contribute to an unintentional drop in blood sugar levels during overnight hours. This drop, though often barely noticeable during waking hours, can have a direct and significant impact on your sleep quality. Without a small, appropriate snack before bedtime, your blood sugar may dip too low while you sleep, causing your body to wake you up in the middle of the night as a protective response. Additionally, as we age, our metabolism naturally slows down, which means our sleep becomes lighter and more easily disturbed by the slightest interruption. Whether it's a temperature change in the room, or more commonly, hunger pangs that arrive after several hours without food. Let me share the story of Frank, a 71-year-old man who recently retired after decades of structured work life. His routine shifted so slowly and quietly that he barely noticed the changes until their effects became impossible to ignore. Days that were once filled with purposeful, time-sensitive tasks gradually gave way to a slower, more relaxed pace. Frank found himself eating dinner at 4:30 p.m., dozing off in his comfortable recliner while watching the evening news, and heading to bed by 8:30 p.m. His days no longer carried the urgency they once did, and over several months, everything in. His schedule shifted earlier and earlier. The change was subtle at first, almost imperceptible day by day. But before Frank knew it, he found himself waking up every single morning at 2:50 a.m., feeling confused, restless, and completely unable to fall back asleep despite feeling tired. Frank's experience is far more common than many people realize. The changes to his routine, though they seemed insignificant when viewed individually, led to a natural but disruptive shift in his internal rhythm. It's truly remarkable how often we underestimate the powerful influence of our daily habits, yet they shape our body's responses in ways we don't even realize. Our bodies naturally crave rhythm and consistency, daily patterns that help our brains understand clearly when it's time to rest and when it's time to be alert and active. The beauty of this system is that our bodies are constantly adapting and responding to the cues we provide. But when the external signals we once relied on to guide us through each day begin to fade away or change dramatically, our body's internal clock can easily get thrown off course. This misalignment between our internal rhythm and our actual sleep needs can leave us wide awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, confused about why we're alert when we want nothing more than peaceful, uninterrupted rest. But here's where real hope enters the picture. By noticing these shifts and recognizing the patterns in your own life, you can gently guide your body back toward a healthier, more satisfying rhythm. The key lies in making thoughtful, intentional adjustments to your daily routine. By gradually shifting mealtimes, adding light but engaging evening activities, and perhaps introducing a touch of gentle physical activity in the late afternoon, you can slowly but surely help realign your sleep cycle with your desired schedule. Small, intentional changes made with awareness and care can make all the difference in the world. They can restore your sense of natural rhythm, ensuring that when you do sleep, it's deep, restorative, and satisfying. Understanding the powerful connection between your daily habits and your sleep rhythm is one of the most effective ways to address those unwanted early morning wake-ups. With just a few simple, thoughtful tweaks to your routine, you can reclaim restful sleep, wake up feeling genuinely refreshed, and restore that important sense of balance to both your body and your daily life. After all, don't we all deserve to enjoy the precious restorative rest we need to live fully and joyfully each day? Reason 5. Emotional and mental restlessness. Have you ever awakened at 3 a.m. and found yourself completely unable to drift back to sleep? Sometimes it's not your body that feels restless. It's your mind and heart that seem determined to stay active. As we grow older, the constant bustle and distraction of daily life that once kept our deeper emotional thoughts buried beneath the surface begins to fade away. In that newfound silence, often during the profound stillness of night, those emotions we've long pushed aside begin to surface and demand attention. The quiet hours before dawn, when everything around you feels perfectly still, become the ideal time for unresolved worries, lingering regrets, and deep longings to stir within us. You may find yourself wide awake not because of any physical discomfort or external noise, but because your mind is finally doing what it has long avoided, quietly processing memories, unresolved thoughts, or subtle anxieties that have settled deep inside you over many years. This type of restlessness differs significantly from the intense anxiety you might have experienced in your younger years. It's not loud, overwhelming, or frantic in nature. Instead, it's more like a gentle whisper, a soft hum that lingers persistently in the background of your consciousness. It's a feeling that something feels just slightly off balance, even if you can't quite identify exactly what it is. When your mind isn't actively distracted by daily tasks and responsibilities, it naturally drifts back to past relationships, decisions you made long ago, painful losses you haven't fully processed, or important words that were left unsaid. Now, with the pace of life naturally slowing down and no longer rushing from one responsibility to the next, there's finally space and time for those thoughts to grow louder and more persistent. They have nowhere to hide anymore in the quiet corners of your mind. Loneliness can also play a significant role in these midnight awakenings. For many older adults, as life shifts and children move away to start their own families, or longtime friends become distant due to health issues or other circumstances, those once bustling social circles begin to shrink noticeably. Your days might still be filled with pleasant activities, phone calls with family members, a trip to the grocery store, or working in your garden. But when the house grows quiet at night, it can create a noticeable emptiness. This isn't necessarily the heavy, overwhelming loneliness of being physically isolated, but rather a subtle longing for deeper connection, for someone to share meaningful conversations with when the world around you is completely still. Consider someone like Helen, who is 78 years old and has been widowed for 3 years. while her days are filled with tending to her small flower garden, chatting with her grandchildren on the phone, and watching her favorite television programs. She finds herself consistently awake at 2:45 a.m. with her mind wandering back to precious moments she shared with her late husband. In the quiet of night, unresolved feelings and worries that she often pushed aside during busy daytime hours come rushing to the surface like a gentle but persistent tide. For several months, Helen thought her sleep issues were simply another problem that came with aging. But over time, she began to realize that these early morning awakenings were less about sleep difficulties and more about her heart trying to communicate important things to her. It wasn't broken or disrupted sleep. It was her soul speaking, trying to process grief, memories, and the natural contemplation that comes with this stage of life. To cope with these quiet, contemplative hours, Helen developed a small but deeply meaningful ritual. She began keeping a simple journal by her bedside and wrote down whatever thoughts or feelings came to mind when she woke up. Nothing elaborate or forced, just a few honest reflections about whatever was stirring in her heart. She also started listening to soft, comforting music during these wakeful moments, or sometimes wrote brief notes to friends she hadn't spoken with in a while. These small acts, these quiet reflections and gentle moments of connection, gave her emotions a safe, appropriate place to be acknowledged and heard. This practice calmed her mind enough that she could often drift back into peaceful sleep. The truth is, the heart doesn't operate on any strict schedule or timeline. It remembers what it wants to remember, asks the questions it needs to ask, and sometimes, just sometimes, it decides to do all of this processing when the rest of the world is deeply asleep at 3 a.m. When everything else is silent and still, that's not a flaw or a problem to be fixed. It's actually a sign of emotional depth and wisdom. It's evidence that the experiences you've lived through, both the wonderful joys and the inevitable heartaches, have left meaningful marks on who you are as a person. Now, in this quieter phase of life, your heart is finally taking the necessary time to process and integrate everything that has shaped you into the person you've become. If you find yourself waking up at unusual hours, feeling reflective or contemplative, it might simply mean that your accumulated wisdom and life experience are asking to be acknowledged and honored. You've lived through so much, experienced countless moments of joy and sorrow, and those experiences, whether delightful or painful, are still very much part of who you are, ready to be recognized and integrated. These quiet, reflective moments during the night aren't necessarily something that needs to be fixed or eliminated. Rather, they might be something to embrace with curiosity and gentle acceptance. Instead of feeling frustrated or worried about these wakeful periods, try approaching them with kindness and genuine curiosity. Ask yourself gentle questions. What is my mind trying to tell me right now? What part of me is seeking attention or acknowledgement? What aspect of my life experience simply needs some grace and understanding? Sometimes the most profound and healing rest doesn't come from ignoring or suppressing these meaningful moments. It comes from honoring them, listening to what they have to teach us, and responding with compassion. By approaching these experiences with acceptance rather than resistance, you might discover that not only do you sleep better overall, but you also gain a richer, deeper understanding of yourself during this important chapter of your life. Final reflections on your sleep journey. As we reach the end of our exploration together, I encourage you to take a quiet moment to reflect on what has resonated most deeply with you today. Was it learning about the natural shifts in your internal rhythms? Perhaps it was understanding how physical changes affect your rest, or maybe something touched you on a deeper emotional level. Those quiet stirrings that only reveal themselves when the world outside grows still and silent. Each of the 5 reasons we've discussed today creates a unique picture of those early morning awakenings, and it's important to understand that none of them suggest that something is fundamentally broken or wrong with you. Each one reveals a quiet strength, evidence that your body and mind are still actively working, still responding and adapting, even as you continue to grow older and wiser. These moments of wakefulness aren't simply nuisances to be eliminated or fixed. They're gentle nudges from your body and soul, quietly reminding you to listen more closely to yourself. They're soft, tender signals urging you to connect more deeply with your inner wisdom and your authentic needs. You're absolutely not alone in this experience. Countless others share these feelings, this need to understand and make sense of the quiet stirrings that happen within us during the night hours. With this new understanding comes strength, and with that strength comes the freedom to make small, meaningful changes that support better rest, greater inner peace, and a deeper, more harmonious connection to your body's natural rhythms. There's no need to rush through this process or suppress what naturally arises in the silence of night. It's all part of your unique journey. A journey that, with time and patience, will bring even greater clarity, peace, and joy to your daily life. Remember, waking up at 3 a.m. isn't just about sleep patterns or physical discomfort. It can be a powerful moment of connection with your deeper, wiser self. It's an opportunity to listen carefully to the wisdom and emotions that are always present within you, patiently waiting for you to hear and acknowledge them. The stillness of night can reveal so much more than we often realize. By embracing these moments with kindness and genuine curiosity, rather than frustration, we can gain valuable insights about our hearts, our minds, and our authentic needs during this meaningful stage of life. What aspects of your own experience resonated most strongly with what we've discussed today? What insights or strategies are you planning to gently bring into your life moving forward? These quiet moments of self-reflection and the small changes they inspire can be the beginning of more restful nights and more peaceful days. Your sleep journey is unique to you, and understanding your body's signals with compassion rather than judgment is one of the most loving gifts you can give yourself. Whether it's adjusting your evening routine, creating a more sleep-friendly environment, or simply accepting your body's natural rhythms with greater kindness, small steps can lead to meaningful improvements in both your rest and your overall well-being. Take care of yourself, honor your body's wisdom, and remember that every phase of life brings its own rhythms and gifts, including those discovered in the quiet, contemplative hours of early morning.